I hope your day is off to a great start. This is today's parent. My name is Christine Kasina. Welcome to today's show. We are going to talk about the importance of developing our kids' cognitive capabilities. Today is about the big words, but we are going to break it down for you. And in studio today, we have counseling psychologist Simon Miner, who's back with us to share the importance for us as parents to develop the cognitive capabilities of our children. Welcome to today's show. Mr. Simon Miner, we are glad to have you back.
Thank you very much.
You know, I don't think there's any parent who walks around saying, I want to develop my child's cognitive capabilities. It's such a big word.
Yeah.
If you could break it down for our parents who are watching, what is cognitive?
Basically, when we talk about cognitive development, we need to look at it from so that we can understand it better. We need to look at it from the perspective of holistic development of a child, where we are talking about all areas of formation. We are talking about psychological well-being. We are talking about emotional well-being. Then we are also talking about social well-being. And then, of course, now we talk about cognitive development, which has a lot to do with the mental development, capabilities that have to do with decision-making, generally the learning processes of this child.
Simon, why is it important for us to develop our children's cognitive capabilities?
Right. This is an important part of parenting because if you want to have a healthy child holistically, you cannot neglect any area of their development. So you want to make sure that they're able to make judgment, they're able to think independently, they're able to make choices, and that has all to do with their cognitive capacities. And therefore, in the same way that all other areas of life you want to be involved in the life of that child, even in cognitive development, you want to invest deliberately to grow them in that direction. Yeah.
I'm thinking of way back when you know, our parents were raising us. I'm sure for older parents who are watching this, these are such new things to them. Yeah. Because as long as you had food, shelter, clothing, you are going to school, that was enough. We've reached a point that it's important for us what cognitive capabilities are. That's just a different kind of era we are in. So you did mention that, you know, during our conversation before, that there are different stages of cognitive development. If you could break it down for us.
Yeah, a child will develop. Remember when a child comes into this world, and we have said in our previous session here that they are dependents, and so they come with almost without a lot of the resources that they will need for this life, and they have to be built progressively. And even in cognitive development, you will realize that to start there, we could be using here terminologies that are not so important for us to really go into. But for purposes of clarifying what we're talking about, there's a psychologist, a scientist, by the name Piaget, who has given us the 4 stages of cognitive development. Right. And he basically says that from 0 all the way to about 24 months, he calls this stage sensory motor. Sensory motor. Sensory motor. And what is important to understand in this stage is that this child has very minimal cognitive capacities. Okay, they can only probably focus on what they're looking at. They're not able to interpret it. They're not able to understand a lot of things that are happening, but they're just there. Okay, and that goes all the way to about 2 years. Then after that phase, they go to another phase from 2 years to about 7 years that we call pre-operational phase. This is where now this child is able to put 2 and 2 together. They're able to see this is a desk, this is a chair, and they're able now to begin even developing language. They can be able to say things. They can be able to call your name. They'll make a statement, and progressively now that capacity is increasing. But still, at this phase, they're not able to think in very, very concrete terms. Okay. Then they move from there, and from the age of about 7 years all the way to early adolescence. We call this stage the concrete operational stage. This is where now it is a bit more concrete. They're able now to bring concepts together and those concepts begin to make sense.
Right.
Okay, and they can be able to, understand those things very, very well.
All right, Simon, at this point in time for stage 0 to 2, what's the importance of play and the link to cognitive development for a child that young?
Yes, play is very important because in playing they're interacting with things, okay, and they are able to connect, and that stimulates their mind to begin to think.
Right.
When they have that thing that they're holding in their hands, and they're beginning to figure out what could this be. They may not even call it a name, or probably they will in their heads they have. We don't know. They probably have a name for that thing they're holding and playing around with. But in that process, because if you lock up a child in a place where they cannot interact with the environment and they are not having any things to play around with and people around
no
them,
stimulation at all,
that child will not even survive, by the way. They can even die, because they want to interact with the environment, and that is the only way that now their minds get stimulated.
All right, and you mentioned the second stage before we go on the break. If you can briefly touch on the second stage.
The pre-operational stage.
Pre-operational stage.
Pre-operational stage. This is where now, this child now, there is a bit of movement, even physically, they're crawling or they're beginning to walk. And of course, now this stage will go all the way to about 7 years. So this is also the preschool age.
Right.
Okay. So this child now is beginning to move beyond father, mother, mostly mother, in those earlier months. But now they're beginning to move beyond that environment, okay? This is where we begin to talk about taking them to a play group, and they're beginning to interact with the world outside the immediate home, okay? Now, in this particular stage, this is where now you begin to cognitively interact with these children and teach, okay? One of the most unfortunate thing about the parenting that I've seen, even in the generation past, is that there is no deliberate teaching. Okay, you can remember probably, if you are coming from that kind of an experience, that the mode of discipline we knew is where you would discover that something is wrong when you're punished for it.
Yes.
Okay, a 4-year-old goes to the neighbor's house and they're given food and they eat.
So the problem here is you ate at your neighbor's place.
Yes.
What's the problem with that, by the way? Years later, when you think about it, what's the issue with that?
Well, of course, now it's about the rules in that home, which the point of whether it's right or wrong is not even the point at this moment, but the point is cognitively, this child only discovers that there's a rule in our home that says, thou shalt not eat in the neighbor's house. But they will know it when they're beaten for it. They have absolutely no idea.
A lot of people will remember this from their childhood, being beaten for eating at the neighbor's house.
Exactly. So in the pre-operational stage, this is where you invest in teaching the children what they need to know. Okay? Remember, they are coming from a place where they're blank. Okay? If you'd want them to behave in a certain way when you go into a shopping mall or the supermarket, because you're an adult and you know how you want this child to behave, preempt that experience.
Right.
Okay? Sit down with this child before you leave the house and tell them, we are going to the shopping mall and I don't want you to cry for a toy because today we are not buying a toy. So we are going to pick A, B, C. So anticipate the behavior and preempt that behavior. Teach them. And because that is what cognitive development is about, so that they know the expected behavior and the outcome if they don't behave in a particular way.
The consequences.
Okay, so this is the pre-operational stage. A lot of teaching need to happen at this stage. And that's the reason why quantity time with this child in this formation stage is so important. Exactly. Exactly.
So spending a lot of time with your child.
Exactly. The fallacy of quality time is something that does not work in parenting. I mean, I believe in quality moments that happen within quantity time.
That's very deep. And on that note, Simon, let's take a short break, and then when we come back, we'll continue from there.
Thank you.
That is very deep. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
We are going to take a short break right now. In our conversation today, we are talking about the importance of developing cognitive capabilities in our children, and we have counseling psychologist Simon Miner sharing tips with us. We are going to take a short break. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to today's episode of Today's Parent, where we have Simon Miner, a counseling psychologist, sharing with us the importance of developing our children's cognitive capabilities. Simon, as we come back from the break, we have a question from Albert. And Albert's question is, he has a feeling that his child is a genius. For any parent who feels their child is a genius, how do you develop, or how can you tell, first of all, that your child is a genius? And how can you enhance that capability that you feel they have?
Yeah, definitely there are children who are extremely gifted cognitively. And one of the indicators is that they move much faster. When you look at their age versus their cognitive capacities,
right,
you can easily tell this child is capturing things much faster and able to internalize that information and use it in a way that probably would not resonate with their age. Okay? Right. And there are quite a number of children who are like that. One of the mistakes that parents make when this child is like that, many of those children are abused in a sense because they're not allowed to be children. Okay, because the moment we realize that this child has this special capacity, we deny them the opportunity to grow and to form in other aspects of their life. And so I'm not sure it's happening anymore, but probably it's still happening. You realize that a child, because they have capacities, even though they are supposed to be in class 2, they are taken to class 4 because they can handle.
Should we do that, by the way?
I don't think that is appropriate. I don't think that's appropriate because the development of a child is not just cognitive. You want them also to play with their age mates.
Yeah.
You want them to interact emotionally at that level. And the fact that a child is able to understand maths and do those calculations without even getting a second example or that example like their peers,
right,
remember, they also need to grow emotionally. And emotional development is experiential. So when you deny them the opportunity to grow and to evolve
exponentially,
yes, yeah, and in that pace that is reasonable and healthy, then you're making a big mistake with that
right,
child.
Right.
However, now we need also to harness that potential, that giftedness that they have.
How do you do that as a parent?
I believe one of the things that you want to do is, of course, do not do it alone. When you discover this child has these special capabilities, engage with the experts, engage with people in education, engage with people in counselors, in psychology, so that they can give you advice on how you need to manage this kind of a situation.
Right.
Then I also believe it's important to make sure that this child is helped to know and to feel normal. Okay.
Because most children just want to fit in, you know.
Exactly. So because you see, when you have a child who is always thinking, I am different, it doesn't matter whether it is because of their special giftedness or it's because of their weaknesses, it becomes very difficult for that child. Okay. So you want them to know, yes, you have this special gift, but please, you are still a normal child. You're a child. You need to be part of the society. Because you see, you realize you can have an A student, straight A's, but they are never able to perform when they become adults.
Absolutely.
Okay, why? Because they never learned any people skills.
And social skills.
Okay.
They do struggle, by the way. A lot of them struggle.
They struggle a lot. So you want this child to be put in a situation where every time, and I think there is more work for this parent with a very gifted child, because at times you may want actually to slow them down. You may want to decide what are you going to engage in at this level so that they can grow in a controlled way.
Right.
But at the same time, celebrate their special giftedness. Yes.
All right. Going back to our conversation of today, you did mention the first cognitive development stage is the sensory stage.
Yes.
And then the second one was the pre-operational.
Pre-operational, yes.
So we have 2 to go?
Yes.
So what's the third one?
The third one is concrete operational.
Concrete operation. These things are so technical.
Yeah, but we are trying to break it down so that you're not stuck with these jargons.
Concrete operational.
Yes. The concrete operational, when this child is 7 years all the way to early teenage, 11, 12 years old. And by the way, you need to remember that in as much as these stages will follow each other like that, it may not be very strict, the ages that I'm mentioning here.
Right.
A child may develop faster depending on the environment and the other factors that are involved. However, you realize all the children will go through these stages.
Right.
But in the concrete operational, this is when now this child is able to interact with more information. You know, they have grown to a level whereby, and remember, these are a child in primary school already, 7 years in class 1, going to class 2, 3. And during this stage, the activity here is that they are interacting more with the outside world. They are learning more concrete ideas. They are able now to make more choices, okay? However, they're still not at a level whereby they can be able to find their way. They still need a lot of guidance.
Okay.
One of the things that is important for the parent at this time is to allow the child to interact with the environment more freely, okay? This is why we send them to school, and it's okay. They can be able to gain some independence. Of course, you are still available to correct the misconceptions that they have, and you want to also be able to preempt. You want to help them make build relationships outside home and grow in a healthy way. But that is the third stage, the concrete operational stage.
Right.
Then probably I can just jump into the fourth stage, which is the formal operational stage.
Formal operational stage.
Exactly. This is now, Piaget will tell us that this is a final stage, meaning after this stage, all you do now is to grow in terms of the information. But cognitively, you are set, you are developed. Okay, but with more experience and more exposure, you have more information that you integrate, but already cognitively, you are set. And
your ways are set.
Exactly.
The foundation is set.
Very true. Now, one thing that I need to point out here is this. During this, because this happens in teenage, in adolescence, it's very important for you to realize that what has happened in the 3 former stages is so critical, because by the time a child is 11 years, they have already developed what we call a life script.
Right.
And life script means...
A life script?
Exactly.
Wow.
And this child will be reading from this script in regard to the decisions they make about life. Even
when they're 30, 40, 50, they still come back to the same script?
They come to this script. Let me give an example, because I think that would be helpful. A child, say for example, a child is abused at the age of 8 years. And they form, maybe this is a girl, so they put in their script that men are evil because this man abused me.
Yeah.
Okay? That is the script they are reading from. You realize when they are 20, 21, 22, and they want to form a relationship probably with a man, they might struggle. And many times they will struggle unless they have done something deliberate to undo or to rewrite the script. Because
of what happened.
Of what happened. Because it's almost like a recorder.
Yeah.
So this is already recorded. So this girl will go to the university and they will meet a man, and the moment they interact with this man, in their head they will know, I am being set up for an abuse. So that script has to be rewritten. The good thing is that cognitively, it is the same processes that were used to write the script.
Yeah.
they can be used to rewrite the script. But
That's good.
Someone need to work on it.
All right. Maina, to make our conversation relatable,
Yep.
let's talk about now how parents can, if you can share tools with our parents who are watching, how they can develop their children's cognitive capabilities. What can you share with us?
I'll just give you a few tips because, of course, we don't have a lot of time to dive into this. However, number one, a parent need to be empowered. Meaning what? It means you need to educate yourself on where is my child and what do I need to do in various stages. Okay? So take time to think through the journey of this child from 0 all the way to 18 years when you're going to release them.
Wow.
About 940 weeks.
Only!
That you are with this child. And by the way, every week that goes, you need to look at it and know, okay, this child is almost leaving. So you need to look at that journey and first of all ask yourself, what are the capacities that I need my child to have achieved by what stage? Okay? Then after you have that script, and of course you also want to realize that children are different. One of the things that parents make as a mistake is when they think that all the children must fit within one box.
Yeah.
Okay? Remember, they're different in their personalities, and we need to avoid the danger of comparing a child with an older sibling. Okay? And I'm dealing with this unique child.
Yeah.
One of the advices of family planning, although that's not what we're talking about, we'll talk about the only child philosophy, okay? Whereby you look at this child and you parent this child as an individual, okay? Even if they're siblings, but this is a unique child with their unique needs and with their unique way of bringing them up, okay? Then go to the other child. Of course, that becomes very, very helpful. But to summarize it, what we're saying is, number one, educate yourself. But then number two, have a way of working with every individual child as an individual.
Do you feel that our parenting styles then affect how we cognitively develop our children?
Precisely, it does.
Is there a parenting style that we could possibly adopt to then, help us get our children to do better intellectually, their problem-solving skills and all their cognitive capabilities?
I wouldn't want to give a script. I wouldn't want to say that, this is how it is going to work. Because again, I normally say before I got my own children, I was an expert in telling parents how to do these things.
Until you got your own.
Until they came and I drew the script and I realized this is on-the-job training. It has to be.
All of us are learning.
Yeah. What I would say is this. There is a lot of information out there, but you've got to define what is my, okay, in as much as I'm saying I'm not giving a script, but what is my basic script in parenting?
Yeah.
And I give these three things. Parenting job and even cognitive development involves these three things for me. Number one, teach the child, equip the child with all the information, not all, you cannot give all.
The much that you can.
The much you can, but what they need to do this life.
Yeah.
Spiritually,
Yeah.
emotionally,
Yeah.
cognitively. Supply them with the information. Number two, supervise them to implement that information. Okay? Be available to hold their hands as they use the information that you have supplied. Okay? And we need to be very careful here because this information is not going to come from anywhere else. Primary source of information
should be from the home, from the parents.
Okay?
Yeah.
So supervise them as they interact with that information and use it. Number three, discipline them when they don't. Okay, bring them back. Discipline here, of course, I know in our African culture, the moment we hear discipline, we are thinking spanking.
Yeah.
But discipline is that shaping of behavior. Those three key things. And I think that if I was to give a script, that is what I would give as a script for cognitive development.
Thank you very much, Simon.
Right.
We thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
All right, and we look forward to having you another time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the
pleasure
tips.
to be here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Our conversation today was about how we can develop the cognitive capabilities of our children. What Simon Miner has mentioned as a counseling psychologist, the one thing we've had today is not even about the quality, it's about the quantity time that we also spending with our children, and then finding a way to harness their capabilities in such a way we prepare them for the future. We cannot ignore the importance of cognitively developing our children. In case you have any other further questions, just send us an SMS and we can see how we can invite Mr. Miner back to share with you on tips you can use to grow your children to be the best that they can be. I have been your host, Christine Kasina. This has been today's Parent. We've been here in studio at Little Cribs, the home of fun, exciting, durable, and affordable kids furniture. Looking for parenting information? Go to www.supermamas.co.ke. And for now, we say goodbye and thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful day.